It's the Romford Film Festival. Time to shine bright. Up on a silver screen, under neon lights. Directors and actors all taking flight. Cinematic dreams take shape tonight. From the palace to the streets, talent so diverse. A platform for voices, let the cameras burst.
We are live, or we're going to be live next Friday, the 23rd of May, 24th of May, sorry, right through to the 28th of May, which is the Friday to the Tuesday. A nice long weekend where you get to go and watch hundreds of movies on hundreds of screens and enjoy absolutely everything. But tonight I'm sitting down with a director, a writer of the movie Help Is on the Way, Mr. Jason A. White. Jason, how are you tonight? I love that poster, by the way.
You know, I'm proud of the poster. I directed the poster too.
Nice.
I'm great. I'm happy to be here. I'm really happy to be at Romford. I feel like the UK gets my sense of humor. And
This movie, your short. One of the things I love about your short is it's not necessarily like that British kind of style, but the ending is 100% British. It just lands like a British comedy. So yeah, it's fantastic. I love it.
Well, you know, I was very influenced. At a young age, I saw Kind Hearts and Coronets, and it's a movie that has stayed with me. It's one of my favorite movies ever because it's basically a movie about murder, about killing people. I'm like, maybe I have some latent hostility. I don't, whatever it is. I think if you're funny, you have a little hostility.
I mean, don't we all?
Yes. And that's the thing is, no, I wish I had the driest sense of British humor that's there, but it's as close as I can get being an American to that sense of humor, I think.
So let's jump back a quick hot second before we get into Help Us on the Way. I like to find out a little bit because when I'm on stage doing the Q&As, I don't necessarily get to do a dive into the creator because sometimes you've got 2 or 3 different directors on the stage at the same time. So the first question I want to ask you really is jump back a little bit. Let us know who Jason is, a little bit about your background and how you ended up in this crazy world of filmmaking.
Well, I mean, you go back. I don't know where I could begin to make that wouldn't be boring. At the same time, my love of movies started very early. I think my parents took me to see a Marx Brothers movie. I thought it was Duck Soup, and I thought, wow, those guys are having fun. That's what I want to do. And initially, believe it or not, I wanted to be an actor, and I discovered that I just don't have that vulnerability. I don't have the ability to. To expose myself in many ways. And I do respect that in actors. I didn't when I was younger, and I really do now. I'm like, wow, you're actually like opening a vein and showing us who you are. So from there, let's just say I went to college. I did a liberal arts education. I was an English major. And I thought I fancied myself a writer, but I didn't have the confidence. So I did a lot of odd jobs in and around the industry. There's a thing called parallel jobism where you work in the industry, but it's adjacent to what you actually want to do.
Yeah.
But I watched a lot of movies in college. There was also a film studies program there, and I watched a lot of movies. It was up in Rochester, New York, where the George Eastman House is, and they have archival prints and silver nitrate prints of really classic films. So nice. I got a history, but I'd watched movies long before that.
What would you say? I know you just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, Kind Hearts and Coronets, but what would you say was a movie that you saw as a youngster and you were like, that's what I want to do. I want to create things like that. I want to make that. I
mean, honestly, oh my God, but you're dating me here, Kevin. That's the problem. I will tell you, I saw Kind Hearts and Coronets on a double feature with Blythe Spirits at the Regency in Manhattan. It was a revival house in Manhattan, and it was a double feature. And I used to go to it because the greatest thing about living in and near New York is they had all these great old revival houses. And when I grew up in the 70s, it was a fallow ground, not a fallow ground. It was a fertile ground for watching old revival movies. I saw Buster Keaton movies. There was a revival of Harold Lloyd movies, and it was at the Thalia, the Regency, Theater 80 St. Mark's, Bleecker Street Cinema, Carnegie Hall Cinema. I'm giving all these places are gone, which is sad. It's very sad. But they were my childhood. Like, I went to go there, and I went with friends. Weirdly enough, I had a lot of friends who were into film, and actually, at least 3 of them have become filmmakers too. So,
nice. And help us on the way. Where did this spring from? Because first of all, the first half of this movie, or the first 3/4 of this movie, is completely my jam. Like, I love talking head movies, two people talking in a room. They're my favorite kind of movies. I just love dialogue. So instantly you've got me hooked, and then you do a left turn towards the end and you go, huh, wow, that's not what I was watching. So where did this come from?
Well, it's based on a true story.
I love it.
You know, that's a great joke for people who've seen the movie. For those of you who haven't, it's funny afterwards. No, I've been in therapy. I've done a lot of things. One of my other favorite movies is my Dinner with Andre, Wallace Shawn, Andre Gregory, Louis Malle, directing. I wanted to. It was a tight space, and I'm like, okay. I had an idea for a movie. I had an idea for a feature film that this was based on, and I thought, well, how do I reverse engineer it? How do I make it interesting to me? I was working on another project that was kind of an Agatha Christie family murder mystery comedy, dark comedy. And I thought to myself, I was stuck on the script, and I had lunch with some friends, one of my filmmaker friends, and they said when they were at NYU, a playwright, John Guare, came in. I'm sorry if I'm rambling, by the way. A playwright came in and said, well, when I'm stuck on one project, I move to another project. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't really have all these different projects. And then I'm like, oh, I have this idea, but it was for a feature film. And I thought, well, actually that might be funny if you hide this fact, which, the ending, and then work your way and engineer it backwards. And I thought, oh, well, that's the idea. And having been in therapy, and I've been in therapy where my therapists have been incredibly frustrated with me. I've had 2 therapists, which I listen. This is a bad reflection on me, but
no, it's not.
They've thrown their hands up in the air, like they're just very frustrated with me, and I'm like, well, that's really an interesting character, as somebody who is like so impossible to get through, and the therapist tries their best. So you have a nice little drama here. But then part of it is also like, well, what's the mystery? The mystery is, why are we in this therapy session? Who is this guy and who is she? And why are they trying to help? I understand her motivation. She's a therapist. She wants to help somebody. But who is he that he's such an impossible person? And then you're like, oh, there it is, So.
And when you're working your way back and reverse engineering this whole thing, because there, as you said before, there are tons of Easter eggs in here, and I mean, it's all there for you from pretty much the opening scene to guess what's going on or to figure out what's going on. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's there for you to see if you're willing to look at it.
I mean,
but
I'm sorry. Go ahead. That's the thing. Sorry.
Carry on.
No, that's the thing. Is like, you have to hide it in plain sight.
Yeah.
So that when you watch it again, if you get a chance to watch it again, it becomes richer and that sort of thing. There are lines of dialogue in there that actually are really funny, but only in retrospect, And
yes, absolutely.
And you have to put that in there, and then you have to put, like, on his side, I mean, as a director, everything that's on screen should be there, right? So on his side, there are a stack of books, and those books are, for me, it was a very Bertolt Brechtian exercise of, here's what's going to happen, and I'm like, I'm literally telling you what's going to happen. And on her side, she's a therapist, so she's a lot of greenery. She's a kind of an earth mother. She's giving. So all of her books on her side are help books, or all these different things, and all the books on his side are like, here's what's going to happen. And she has plants, and she's in green, and his side is very cold. And so, I'm trying to put the theme of the film, or the hints of the film there,
Mhm.
and hopefully a smart audience member will either get it, and a less smart audience member, and I'm not saying that you're less smart, but will be like, wow, that was a surprise. I didn't see that coming. And
Well, I'm going to be
I'm
completely honest with you right now,
sure.
because I am in the less smart bracket. Because when I first watched it, I just thought it was super interesting dialogue. It was really, I was on board with it. I thought this guy's got the weight of the world on his shoulders, which I guess is supposed to be the surface level way you feel. And then when you got the end, I was like, where on earth did that come from? So I went back. I went back and I rewatched it, and again from that starting scene as you're panning out from his eyeball, I'm like, right, okay, right. So here we are.
No, and forgive me for saying it's really not about less smart. It's
No,
really,
no, I get that.
it's really just about planting and paying off, you know. And for me, it's like, I want you to be. I'm glad. Like, the happiest thing in the world for me is that you're not guessing what's going on, because you're so interested in what they're talking about.
Yeah,
For me, like, that's a victory. But it's a win-win for me. It's a win-win either way, because it's like,
exactly.
if you guess, it's like, all right, now you anticipated. And if you don't guess, wow, wasn't that a surprise? So
Wasn't it? So let's jump a little bit onto your cast, because I think your two leads here. It's two leads in there. You have got Andrew Key and Lynn Alicia Henderson, who are both fantastic. They're both brilliant. How did you go about casting these characters?
all right, so Lynn Alicia, I met through friends, and I'd known her for a couple of years. And as I was writing, I thought, oh my God, she would be so great. And she just has the warmest personality. We're both Aquariuses, and she's, a little bit, she's very spiritual, and she's very warm and, touchy and feely. And really, she's out there. It also helps. She was on ER in the 90s.
Nice.
And she was on, and it's funny because once I cast her, then I was watching a couple of episodes of comedies like News Radio and Seinfeld, and she just pops up in them, and I'm like, wait, how did I not know this? You don't tell me about these things. Andrew was the discovery. Andrew,
Yeah.
I put out a casting call. I said, here's what I need for the thing. Here's what I need for the cast. And the thing is that the dialogue, the pages that I gave for the actors to read, reads dramatically. But I said it's a comedy. And so what happened was I got a lot of people in, and they were reading it like it was Shakespeare, which it's not. It's not remotely Shakespeare. But they were reading it like with such gravitas that I was like, "Ooh, what am I doing wrong?" And he came in with one, and his performance was very dramatic. And I sent back to all of the people who cast. I said, "Can you make an adjustment and be a little bit lighter with it?" And he was the one who came back and made an adjustment that made a difference. And I thought, great, that means I can direct him. And then everything else was a piece of cake, because then I got the two of them, because I knew it was an actor's piece, so I had them come and rehearse. I bought them dinner. I'm a low budget filmmaker. I couldn't pay them for the rehearsals, but I bought them dinner. We sat, we talked about it. We did some exercises. After the first meeting, I was like, I had a call with Lynn Alicia, and I said, I'm a little concerned that he's still playing it a little bit too heavy. And she says, don't worry about it. We've been rehearsing on our own. And I'm like,
All right.
And I wanted to cry, because that's never happened to me before. I mean, it's a low budget film. It was a 2-day shoot, and it was a 1 day with sound and 1 day without sound. And I'm like, wow, these actors really care about what I wrote. I swear I wanted to cry. I was like, I can't believe that you guys are doing this. We did an exercise in one of the rehearsals, which I like to do. And it's really tough to do for a dialogue piece, but it's a Terrence Malick trick. And actually, he does it in his movies, is you have lots of dialogue in the movie, and then you act out the movie without the dialogue. And that's what Terrence Malick does. He takes out all the dialogue, and then it's just them acting or just behaving in the moment. And so I had them do that, and it was so great to see that they really kept up with each other. I mean, maybe they got a little bit lost here and there, but they, because it's a dialogue scene, and so they had to use their body and they had to use their thing, and it's a really wonderful exercise for actors. And again, I'm a newbie director, really. This is my second film, but I'm like, well, here's an exercise I heard of. Let's try that, and it paid off, and it pays off in the film. I think it pays off. I think the two of them give great performances. The fact that that it's anything about like that I wrote and directed it, that's fine. I think they did a great performance. It's about them. So
it kind of speaks to the work as well that they could do that, but it's one of those things where it kind of feels like an actor's dream, like, because you've got so much dialogue here and you get to really play with it, and like it's all fine and well running and gunning and doing the action stuff, but when you get to sit down on a couch, that must be where actors live and love their work.
Oh my God. Well, the thing is, I think they had a good time with it. I gave him very sparse bits of direction. I gave her very sparse bits of direction because I felt confident that they knew what the thing was about. I mean, they asked me a few questions. Listen, they ad-libbed a couple of things. He ad-libbed a line that I fucking love. It's that whole thing about traffic, and he goes, and that's just traffic. That was his line. That's not my line. But the space was there for him to open up and feel free to put a cap on it. And for me, like, that was the perfect cap on that speech. And I hadn't put it in the script. So, she did bits of business too. I'm sorry, go ahead. You were going to say.
No, crack on. It's your interview.
No, and she did bits of business too. And I'm like, when you're in the hands of pros, it's like, okay. And again, I don't think of it as my film. I think of it as our film, because it's a collaboration. If it were my film, it would be in my drawer. I projected, from my script onto the screen. But for me, I like the collaboration. I like working with actors. I like working with the DP. I like working with the sound guy. I have a vision. It's my job to keep everything kind of focused. But I love when everybody else contributes. My God, it's so wonderful.
It must definitely help as well when everybody's got the passion and everybody's working together as a team. Like it becomes less of a job and more of, we're making something super awesome here.
It thrills me when people cotton to my work. When they like it, I'm like, oh great, really? like it's a surprise. But I do have I have a confidence, and yes, it's wonderful when people care, and hopefully everybody involved cares. Listen, on my first film, I had a costume person say something, and I'm like, that's a great idea. Let's do that. Because everyone contributes. Everyone in the department, everyone on the film contributes, especially on an independent film. And if you're not open to that, then you're doing something wrong, I think. So.
And with that in mind, with the team coming together and making something special, a question that I like to ask is, because every creator out there, every director out there can tell me what's wrong with their movie when they see it up on the screen or when they see it with an audience. You can point out a million and one things, but what I like to ask is there any, and you may have already answered this with that line that your lead actor improvised, but is there any one particular thing that you see up on the screen that you are just hugely proud of? Like, that looks amazing. We nailed that. That's exactly what we wanted. Is there any one thing that you can think of?
I mean, I storyboarded the last couple of shots, and I knew that it was okay to have it look fairly cheesy, because I think if it were any more elaborate, it would kind of cut the joke of the movie, I think. Yeah. But I'm thinking, no, my favorite parts, if you really want to know the truth, my favorite bits of business are the really fast back and forth that they have about the job. And it's cut really well, and their back and forth is so great, and their performance is so great. And I thought, wow, I wrote this, and they did it so perfectly. And I'm like, because you're in the drama. Yeah. And for me, that's the part of it. And I did something, I will tell you, I did do something with him. If you notice in the film, she's always mostly centered in the frame.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's always off to the left or to the right until he makes a decision. So he's always he's off kilter is the idea. And I don't know, visually it looked right. It was the right thing to do.
Now I'm gonna have to watch it again.
Well, again, Kevin, when you see those ideas, I mean, listen, as a student of film, I watch film all the time. I always ask myself, why are they doing this shot? What is the purpose of this shot?
Yeah.
And again, I feel like, look, part of the shot is to have the character, you just want to see the character, you want to see the actor. But for me, it's like, there has to be a reason if the camera has a certain angle. And look, let's face it, it's a visual medium. I like it to look, I want it to look good. Even when it's rough or gritty, it's like you want to have some sort of framing, or you want to have some sort of visual, like, oh, that looks really cool. I love when people's heads are off center, and there's space behind them, as opposed to them talking and there's space there. I prefer the head there and space behind them, because there's something off center about it, and there's something very pleasing to me aesthetically. And so I really care. I take particular care in how I frame, and of course with the over the shoulder shots, those are classic.
Yeah.
But again, with him, who is that character? Well, he's not somebody who's centered until he makes a decision, and then he's centered, and that's
for better or worse.
Right, exactly. For better or for worse. Exactly. Well, that's my joke, is that she gives the greatest advice. He may not be the person to give that advice to.
And of course, you said that this kind of started off as a feature that you were building, that you were working on, and then you've retooled it and reverse engineered it into a short. Would you ever be interested in going back to having this on a larger scale?
I have thought of it. It's funny because it's come up. I've thought of it as a potential TV show. Somebody keeps comparing it to The Sopranos. Well, because on some level it is that concept. But for me, it's like I have to find a way in to make it feel original. I could see making a money grab for that. And I understand making a money grab for that, but for me, I would like it to also be on its own, rather than that's a clever reference to that. And I believe me, I've been thinking about it, and somebody said yes, it could be a feature. I without ruining it, I feel like there's a certain saturation level, if you know what I'm saying, about
100%.
And also the comedy versions of that have not played out so well.
Not really, no.
I'm thinking of an Uma Thurman film, and I'm thinking of a long ago Ben Stiller film, with a bunch of other people, and I'm like, well, so for me again, it's about artistically, does it make sense? Financially, of course, or as quote unquote content creator, I hate to say this, I do consider myself an artist. And it would only work if I could make it work for me,
Yeah. No, it's got to work for you, because at the end of the day, I always tend to think if you're making a project like that, or if you're making any project, you've got to like to watch it as well. You've got to edit this thing a million times. You've got to sit with it for years. You've got to enjoy it yourself.
well, exactly. And I don't want to be the cynical, oh, take the money, or like, hey, this is a great idea, and just sell out. And there's a part of me, believe me, I would love to sell out. but it also has to be, again, I'm trying to strive on some level for originality. I take probably tried and true ideas, and I try to put a spin on them. Look, there are so many stories in the world, right? That we've seen over and over again, but you want to see them done differently. You want to see them done with originality. Like Kevin, if you're, I don't know if you are a filmmaker. If you
I'd
were,
love to be, but no.
but if you were, and we told the same story, yours would come out differently from the way mine comes out. So just by
Yeah,
POV.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely. And apart from that, what are you working on? Anything else you can tell us about? You got anything on the boil that you can talk about
I just
coming up next?
I just produced a short film, a short horror movie. He has a feature script of that. It is a very experimental film. I'm very proud of the film. I think it's beautiful. His name is Paul X. Sanchez Yates, the fourth. He has a good name. And it's a very dreamlike film. And I feel like we've created this very dreamlike film. It's very different from this film. I feel like it's definitely in a different realm. But the film is beautiful. I'm also working on my third short, which, as I said, I think I mentioned it before. It is a family. It's sort of an Agatha Christie family dark comedy. The family pet has been murdered. The little girl discovers it, and she realizes that somebody in her family has killed the dog, and she has to find out why.
Love it. We can all get behind that kind of film.
Well, and of course the answer there has to be a twist. Twilight Zones are short films are very much like the Twilight Zone or Black Mirror. You have to have a twist. You have to have something that like, oh, that was the surprise. And I think the same is true with a feature film as well. But a short film, I feel like, demands like, oh, what have I learned from this? Either you get a real revelation at the end, or you get both. You get a twist and a revelation. So,
yeah, it does help with a short film, absolutely. Apart from that, where can people see this movie? Where can people see Help Is on the Way? Apart from Romford on Monday the 27th, 1:15 p.m. to 3:15 p.m. on Screen 7. Sorry, I have to get the business out of the way. But where can people see this going forward, and what happens with the short after the festival run?
Well, I'm in the midst of my literally halfway through my festival run. I'm at a BAFTA qualifying film festival at
Very nice.
Carmarthen Bay in Wales.
Yeah, awesome.
Which is really exciting, and that actually happens a little bit before Romford. And then I'm up, believe it or not, I'm up for an award at the Berkshire International Film Festival in Massachusetts. It's called the Next Great Filmmaker Award. And the truth of the matter is, if you want to go onto the biffma.org website, you might be able to catch a vote for it. Exactly. But you might be able to see it as well.
So do that. Absolutely do that, everyone. I think you deserve tons of votes. And I'm a little bit surprised that you would say, unbelievably, I'm up for an award, because you should absolutely be for this. It's a cracking shot.
I've been nominated a couple of times. You know what? I don't make films to win awards. How's that?
No.
I also don't think that comedies. And again, it's really hard to classify this as a comedy. I think it's a comedy. That's the way I feel. I think any movie where people die at the end, oh, whoops, is a comedy. Did you ever see my first film? Did I say? I'll send you my first film.
I haven't seen the first one, no, but absolutely, because if it's anything along this line, I'm down. I loved it.
It's rougher. It's a much rougher film than this. This one is, I will say, I elevated my game. You have to. If you don't grow as a filmmaker, then
exactly.
The point. But the first one was kind of a kitchen sink, dark comedy, blah, 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 about a hit woman who falls in love with her client. Again, that's an idea we've seen before. I tried to put a spin on it as much as I could.
Awesome.
But yeah, I mean, when I say I'm up for an award, I've been nominated a couple of times, haven't won anything. It's always mildly disappointing, because I feel like, again, I'm surprised how proud I am of this work. I mean, I brought this prop. This is one of the books in the film, right? So hold on, let me see if I can do that. That's my cameo. that's my cameo appearance.
Even better.
Before we got started in production, I'm like, well, there was a lot of lag time. I was waiting to hear from a bunch of different people. As a filmmaker, you should still be working on stuff, which is why I get the production design credit in the film, because I literally production designed it. The photos behind him are photos my brother took. They're of the World Trade Center from back in the 70s, because the World Trade Center, as you know, does not exist. The photograph that he looks at is a photograph my mother took, my late mother took. in Africa. It's of flamingos. And for me, it's always been a tranquil image. And I thought, well, how can I make this a family film? Oh, we didn't even talk about the song at the end. That came in post.
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask, is that an actual song out there, or did you guys make it for the film?
I wrote it. I said to my composer,
That's
and then and my composer like only did the song. He was going to be the composer for the film, but then he got very busy, so he hooked me up with this other guy who did a great job. But I said while I was in post production, I said, wouldn't it be funny if we had a song at the end? Because I was thinking again in the James Bond type theme.
Yeah.
I thought, well, wouldn't it be great to have a theme song that basically tells you everything that you just saw? So I wrote this really. I think it's funny, but also as a, and I hate to say that I'm a comedy director, but I am a comedy director. I feel like in order to get people to watch the credits, give them something funny at the end.
Yeah.
And my first film, I did that. I thought the ending was, when I wrote it, was really funny. We cut it together. I thought, oh, that's not as funny as I hoped it would be. So I had to write lines of dialogue so that you're watching over the credits, so that the story is continuing a little bit, but there's a joke at the end of it. And I thought to myself, well, I want to do that same thing again, because like for me, credits are an opportunity to have fun with the audience, and it's again an opportunity for a punchline with the audience, not outtakes. I think outtakes are a little bit hacky and take you out of the mood of the film. But I thought, well, why not do a song and then be really funny about that? And so I wrote that song, and I'm really proud of the song. And the woman who sang it is this Russian singer from New York, and she's so proud of that song. She's like so happy. She's so happy to be part of a film, and I'm like, you did a great job. I'll promote you as much as possible. Olga Alexandra, I believe. She's
a hugely catchy song as well.
Well, that was kind of the idea. I mean, I would love to release it, but it makes absolutely no sense otherwise. But again,
I don't know. Out of context, it still makes sense, I think.
Yeah, no, it does make sense. It totally does make sense, because it does tell a story. And again, it's funny. You know, talking about comedy films, you know, I love Adam Sandler. I always feel like his movies miss an opportunity at the end to do a punchline. I mean, if you want to go deep cut comedy, like the Farrelly brothers, There's Something About Mary. They know how to punchline ending a movie. Like both Dumb and Dumber and There's Something About Mary have these great jokes at the end. And I'm like, if it's a comedy, leave us laughing. Make me laugh, you know? I don't know.
Absolutely, man.
For any comedy filmmaker out there, that's my request of you.
So I have one last question that I like to ask, and it's purely to put you on the spot and make you hate me a little bit before you leave, because that's just the kind of guy I am. It's the Brit in me. But before we do that, can you please do me a favor and let people know where they can find you, like on the social medias, any websites that you have that show your work? Just promote yourself for a second.
I am at the Jason A. White filmmaker, Jason A. White Film on Instagram. I'm also at Jaw Drop. That's my LLC. Jaw Drop _ LLC, or excuse me, Jaw Drop _ Films _ LLC on Instagram as well. And you can also find me on Facebook under Jason A. White, but that's also a personal one. So. Whatever. I mean,
so now,
social media to me is like, it's a necessary evil. I have to do it.
Oh, so. God, yes. Like I hate. I mean, I despise Twitter and all those other ones, but you kind of have to have it.
The thing I don't mind about Instagram is that you can make these little short, funny videos. And
that's
I'm
cool.
like, okay with that. And I guess I should do that on, but this is how old I am. I haven't done TikTok.
It's a cesspit. It's a cesspit. Don't worry. So the last question that I like to ask people, and everybody looks forward to this one, which is why I don't tell anyone. Basically, it's the desert island question, but with a bit of a twist. So you're on a desert island, you've crash landed, you've got one movie, just one movie that you get to watch for the rest of your life. However, the nerdly twist, or the Kevin Halden of nerdly twist, is that you have to have remade that movie. So it's a movie that's been made, it's out there in the world, you have to remake it, and it's your version you're stuck on this island with.
Oh my God. That's a
I know.
horrible question. See, the twist to me would be, so you're stuck on a desert island, you have this movie, but you don't have a VCR or a TV, or you don't have you don't have a DVD or a TV to play it on. I'm like, well, I can use it as a coaster.
Yeah, but then that's not like that's
I know.
like that's letting you off.
All right. So you want me to remake a movie, but you want, the thing is, I would never remake a really good movie. A really good movie has to stand on its own. So you have to remake a movie that you feel like has potential, but didn't quite hit the mark, right? And there are a lot of those, but the thing is, but now you're making me scratch my brain as to like what movie would that be. I will tell you, I saw Capricorn 1 recently. You know Capricorn 1?
Yeah.
They kind of fake. There's so many absurd things in that movie that they don't explain why, and it's a great concept. I will give you that. I think Capricorn 1 is a great concept movie, but they do so many stupid things that you're like, well, why would you do that? So I would say it's my version of Capricorn 1 has that.
I love that. I love that. That's a cracking idea. It's a great film as well. But you are right. It is pretty absurd. With that, Jason, Monday the 27th of May, 1:15 to 3:15 p.m. on Screen 7, we're showing a bunch of shots, and in amongst those shots, we are showing Help Is on the Way. It's probably, in terms of dialogue and whatnot, it's easily one of my favorites of the festival. So I want everybody to check it out. Jason, thank you for giving us it. Thank you for letting us see it. And honestly, man, I can't wait to see what you do next.
Kevin, seriously, thank you for having me. Thank you for admiring my work. It's really lovely to hear that. I hope you like it. It looks really great, by the way, on the large screen, surprisingly, because it's just a two-person piece. And I'm like, wow, this is really exciting. And it's really exciting to hear it with an audience and to hear their response by the end. So it's nice.
Well, with that, actually, what has been one of the better things you've heard being said about the movie? What has somebody said anything that's kind of stuck with you?
No, I mean, honestly, people are just kind of blown away by the ending, and they're like, they're really happy with it. I will tell you this, Kevin. The problem is I've had some negative reaction.
Oh no! Don't listen to them.
Well, yeah, no. I didn't listen to them because I thought, but I don't know where you're coming from. But somebody, after a Q&A, one of the filmmakers in a block of films that I was in, a block of comedy films, said, "Did you ever think of ending the film here?" And I said, "But that's not a full story." And he says, "Well, I would have." And I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, but I didn't say anything. But in my mind, I thought, well, that's what would make you a bad filmmaker.
And to that guy, shut the hell up.
Well, but I'm fascinated by that. But
I get that.
You know, because I'm like, first of all, like, the film is finished. Why are you giving me no? and by the way, my film at that screening got the biggest laugh. And I'm not saying that to boast or brag, but I'm just saying that it's weird that somebody would do that. But I guess I don't know the reasoning behind that. But I love when people come up to me and say they love the movie. Actually, there was a woman who said that she can't get the song out of her head, and she's actually a musician. She's actually a musician at the end, because it was just like, wow, it was such a nice compliment. She did this really cool, and if I could plug her for a second, she did this really cool music video about Willie Nelson and how she wants to meet Willie Nelson, and it was such a great song, and she sang so great. And she was like, "I love your song. It's still in my head." Because there's a punchline at the end of the song too.
Exactly. And get that put on Spotify, and let's get that downloaded. Number one in the charts.
That'll be the goal. Or
It'll be 2 in the charts, but 1 in our hearts.
I like that a lot. I call it theme from Help Is on the Way because I think that's funny and sort of cheesy. Because there was a I don't know if you remember the original Poseidon Adventure. There was the theme from the Poseidon Adventure, and I just kind of love that, calling a song that. It feels kind of absurdist.
And honestly, Jason, I'm going to let you go. I've taken up too much of your time, but this has been absolutely amazing. And again, everyone, Romford, the 24th of May through to the 28th of May. That's your Friday to Tuesday. But on the Monday, the 27th, go and check out Help Us on the Way. It's Jason's movie, and I, for one, absolutely adore it. And I know the rest of the team did as well. So, Jason, thank you for your movie.
Kevin, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the appreciation, and really, thanks for everything. This has been super fun.